ridiculous. In fact, it's worse than ridiculous. It is sinister. Anyone who opposes voter ID laws is encouraging voter fraud, which is to say, encouraging the destruction of democracy.
Okay, that was a weird cutaway there. I think I forgot an introductory clip. But I think a lot of the clips I'm going into now are going to go into that Georgia law and also some things that are going on in Florida. I would love to hear y'all's, there my South came out, didn't it? Y'all's opinion on the whole Georgia voter thing. Now, I'm going to have some opinions I know a lot of people are going to disagree with. But, well, why am I priming the pump? I always have some opinions that a lot of people will disagree with. But I believe all these clips coming up are going to have to do with Florida and Georgia. So let's just let them go.
So they're trying to mobilize corporations to do their dirty work for them. They don't have control of the levers of power in Georgia. So instead what they're going to do is they're going to try and get private corporations to pressure all of these public bodies into doing what they want. Now, there's a certain irony to this. Members of the left are constantly saying, corporations, they shouldn't be donating money in politics. They shouldn't be in politics. Look at these corporations with their corporate money influencing politics. And then, at the exact same time, they will demand that these corporations actively use their businesses, right? Not just their funds, their businesses themselves. They should change how they do business in order to punish Republican states.
Now, that is an excellent point. You know, it's quite an obvious point, and I don't know why it never really occurred to me. It probably occurred to everyone else, and you're going, you dummy, it didn't occur to you. Yeah, they're anti-corporation until they're pro-corporation. But that also raises another point. Y'all already know my opinion that corporations are not libertarian. I don't cry any tears for them. But when there's such collusion between the states and the corporations, even if I thought corporations were libertarian, are you really going to try? But it's a private company. Really? You know, I'm going to give you an analogy. In some states where you get married, if you want to be sure that the assets you brought into the marriage, if you were to get divorced, stay with you, you don't commingle them. I'm not going to get into what I feel about divorce law. I'm just saying that's the fact. If private companies want to have private rights, then they need to stop commingling their asses with the state and being effectively agents of the state. And the simplistic libertarian, but the continent. Come on. Use your noodle, just like I said to Ben Shapiro. All right.
This is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia and 40 other states.
That is such a despicable statement. Jim Crow, as in like black people and white people can't use the same water fountains? As in like, you know, let's unofficially allow people to go and terrorize black people so they can't vote? You know how disgusting it is that this perverse elderly gentleman keeps suggesting that what is happening in Georgia is in any way akin to Jim Crow? It's an absurdity at the highest level.
I agree. That is a thoroughly despicable statement. This isn't a racial thing. I don't get it. Maybe you guys can explain it to me. I've had some people who are more so on the left try to explain it to me. And they said that voter ID laws are voter suppression and racist because low-income people, which are disproportionately represented by minorities, don't have crap. I hate whenever I do this magnetic liner, it just gets all over the place. Look at this. Oh my God, fucking it all up. That they don't have the time to stand in lines and get these IDs because a lot of them are working multiple jobs or jobs that really don't give the luxury of having time off and things like that. But the thing is, I just don't buy that because these jobs, however undesirable as they might be, you usually have to have an ID to get those jobs. You can't get a job at McDonald's without an ID. I just do not see how this is racist. Now, I'm going to say something that people are going to disagree with me on. Because they're making it, I wish they would just say the quiet part out loud, because I think what they're getting at, and I think we all know this is what they're getting at. And if I were a black person, I'd be really freaking offended that they thought I couldn't, that the great white savior is saying I can't get an ID. Black, that would just offend the living hell out of me. Man, I need a fan or something to, let me do this again to try to dry this. So, and I'm going to look at comments in a minute when I can open my eyes again. So I don't get it. You want to know what this is really about? I believe it's about letting undocumented immigrants vote. And I wish everyone would just be honest. And here's where I'm going to say something that people are going to get really mad at me. I don't care if undocumented immigrants vote. They're subject to the laws of this country, and as long as you're going to be subject to them, you should have a say in them. I don't think there's some magical thing that happens just because you popped out of a vagina on this side of a border rather than another. So when it comes to having voter ID laws to make sure that, people who are here illegally don't vote, I don't care. Now, I do care about making sure that people who are only voting once, but the illegal thing, I know most people will disagree with me on that. Oh, and I love this statement from Elastic Giraffe. Let's use state coercion to counter state granted privilege. I know it's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, did this dry at all yet? So yeah, if someone, please, I'm open-minded. If you can tell me how this is racist, and they're trying to make it racist as an anti-black rather than anti-immigrant, I would love to hear it. I do think it's all about having undocumented immigrants vote. And again, I don't care. Let them vote. I'm not a big fan of voting as it is, but it's a system that we have. So, yeah, I don't get it. And Jim Crow, really? I mean, that's gross. I just can't even believe that people parrot this with a straight face. And the fact is that Georgia has less restrictive laws than Delaware has, where Biden homestead is. This is just politics using people's race and using the very real race struggles that there are. So I want to put up Daniel's comment here. The right-wingers are suppressing any kind of vote that doesn't break their way with rigorous computational precision. Lots of evidence for it. I'd love to see that evidence. But besides that, I would love to hear how having an ID suppresses a Democrat vote. Unless we're talking, again, about undocumented immigrants. And again, I'm fine if they vote. But the law isn't fine if they vote. So I would love to hear how this Georgia law is suppressing minority votes. Because if it is, then I would be against that. But I'm more laughing over this whole thing because let me tell you something. The Democrats don't care. And the Republicans don't care because both of them have their hands dirty with bending over all third parties, which include minority people and women in those parties. They don't care about fair and accurate representation. They can eat my ass because they do not care. They're both flaming fucking hypocrites that suppress the vote constantly. So I'm asking, as a libertarian, if people are being suppressed, I want to know it because I know the libertarian vote is suppressed and I don't like it one bit. And it's so, you're not going to like what I have to say here, the dissent, but I've got some experience with this. If people can vote without an ID card, then how in the world can we stop people from selling their votes? How can you stop people from selling their votes with an ID card? And I'm going to say, here's where I'm going to say the provocative thing, but I absolutely believe it. I think people should be able to sell their votes. I could care less. It's your vote. If you want to sell it, go ahead. This came up in my Colorado ballot selfie case because they said for the minuscule chance that someone might be able to sell their vote, you shouldn't be allowed to take a ballot selfie. Until I went into court and showed them how easy it was to Photoshop the picture of the ballot and sell it 1,000,000 times and make it for whoever wanted me to vote for. But I don't have a problem with people selling their votes as long as they're only selling one of them. But I'm still waiting to hear on how this discriminates against minorities. I just find it extremely offensive to suggest that minorities can't get IDs. I just don't, I want to see the evidence. Because right now, I just think it's gross race baiting. And I don't like it. I don't like gross race baiting because what it does is it makes people disbelieve when there are actual racial inequities going on. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Okay, I'm trying to get this magnetic lash on. Did it get on? I think I need to cut it down. It's a little too big. That's not what she said. Bada boom. But I gotta find some scissors. Sorry about that. Yeah, I still don't see though, and not that I'm expecting it from you guys. I'm not like holding you to that standard. I'm just saying that I still don't see any arguments for how this is racist or suppressing minority vote. But let's continue.
It's a devaluation of how evil Jim Crow was, and it's a degradation of who Georgians are. It's disgusting. And the fact that he's allowed to get away with the Jim Crow, is there going to be any fact check from the media? Is Lester Holt going to do a fact check on the differences between Jim Crow, where he had segregated schools, and a voting law that applies to every single person in Georgia who can vote?
Okay. One thing Ben is missing here. Now, I'm not trying to say it's a racist law because I just don't see that yet. But one of his arguments doesn't follow. Just because a law applies equally to everybody doesn't mean it's a fair law. Disparate impact is a thing. A law can appear neutral on its face and still be discriminatory in practice because it has unintended consequences. I can't think of a good example right now, but, well, let's say there was an arbitrary requirement that to have a certain job, you had to be at least 5'10". And that really wasn't necessary for the job. That requirement applies to everybody, no matter who applies. Black, white, male, female, young, and old. But what would the impact of that job be? Less women. Because women, generally, it's much more unusual for a woman to be 5'10". So you can have something that seems on its face to be neutral that does, in fact, have disparate income. So let's continue.
Hello, welcome to Contemplations, where we talk about something that is...
Okay, so that's it for this. I want to introduce on its own. Looks like that's on there, huh? My magnetic eyelashes on there. Boop, boop, boop. Glamorous, huh? I still got to put the other one on. That's going to be fun. Yeah. So, yeah, I am open to it. Anyone can email me or at another live stream tell me how this is racist or against minorities. I would love to hear it from you because as a libertarian, I would like to know, though I'm still not going to cry a river for the freaking Democrats or the Republicans because they are the biggest vote suppressors there is when it comes to maintaining their grip upon power. And I find it, you want to know, Ben Shapiro said the Jim Crow reference is despicable. You want to know what I find despicable, Mr. Shapiro? That you never mention ballot censorship and the silencing of third-party voices. Okay, Daniel, I just saw what you said. I will watch it. I need to, let me say it out loud so that if I forget the name, that I can just listen back to here. Daniel recommended watching Rigged, the voter suppression playbook, and he says it's on YouTube. I will watch that, and I'll let you know my opinion after I watch it.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want